We'll start from law number 6. A person who is reciting the Shema should not try to communicate with others even though he does not speak. That is, he should not wink with his eyes, move his lips, or gesture with his fingers. However, for the sake of a mitzvah, he may make gestures for the second passage onward. In the first chapter, nothing for no reason whatsoever. From the second chapter, Vayam Shamoa, we are allowed to make gestures just for the sake of a mitzvah. For example, somebody wants to make sure he's holding with the minyan, or whatever mitzvah is to perform, he's allowed to make gestures, but no speaking. Number 7. Before reciting the Shema, in the blessing Ahavat Olam, when reciting the phrase V'havienu, there is a phrase that starts V'havienu towards the end of Shema, towards the end of Ahavat Olam, and bring us from the four corners of the world. A person should take his tzitzit in his hand. During the recitation of the Shema, he should hold them in his left hand, between his forefinger and middle finger, opposite his heart. When he reaches the passage Vayomer, the third chapter, the passage concerning tzitzit, he should hold them in his right hand. When he recites the verse of Ureitem Oto, he should place them on his eyes, look at them, and kiss them. It is customary to kiss them every time one recites the word tzitzit. One should hold them until the phrase of V'nachmodim lo'ad in the blessings Emes V'yatziv, when one should kiss them and release them. So again, you take the tzitzit between the, assuming it's a talit gadol, it's much easier, like that actually, and you hold them until Vayomer. Vayomer, you move them to the right hand, and then when you say tzitzit, you do like that, and you kiss. So there are 3 times the word tzitzit appears. Emes, you say on 4th time. Nechamadim la'ad, you kiss 1 more time, and then you let go the tzitzit. Number 8.
Okay. What about Iter Yad small? I was always told to do it full.
In the Iter Yad, we do it the other way.
Oh, okay.
Are you Iter?
Yeah.
Number 8. When one concludes the Shema with the phrase Ani Hashem Elokechem, one should recite the word Emes immediately, so that no interruption is made between them. Even though the word Emet, it's true, is from the next chapter, we say it together. So when one concludes, we say Hashem Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet, we add that word. The Chazan should do the same when he recites the Shema by himself, and then he should pronounce out loud Hashem Elokechem Emet. The cantor also has to finish Ani Hashem Elokechem Emet, and then recites aloud again Hashem Elokechem Emet. All the congregants should concentrate on hearing these 3 words from the Chazan. When the Chazan says Hashem Elokechem Emet, God, your Lord, is the truth, which are 3 words, we have to listen to the cantor saying it. Why? For these 3 words bring the total of words of the Shema into 248, corresponding to 248 limbs in the human body. In other words, when the cantor recites again Hashem Elokechem Emet, he repeats those words, even though it's God's names. He adds 3 words to the Shema. Those 3 words together with the Shema makes 248 words. So by listening, we are, so to say, as if we say it ourselves. And together we came to a total of 248 words, which are the holy. This is the most important prayer, and this corresponds to 248 limbs, that we should have them perfect and complete and healthy.
So we should be allowed to listen to the Chaz?
No, you're not allowed to speak, and that, by the way, that gives me the opportunity to say that what you do is inappropriate. I'm not going to delve into any further than that. All the congregants should concentrate on hearing these 3 words from the Chazan, for these 3 words bring the total of the words in the Shema to 248, corresponding to 248 limbs of the human body. Afterwards, one starts the following blessing, V'yatziv, V'nachon, V'kayim, V'yasha. But it is forbidden for them to recite Emes a second time. Only the cantor is allowed to say it again. Us, when we hear that from the Chazan, the word Emet we already said before, So we continue from the second word, V'yatziv. A person who is praying without a minyan should recite the phrase Kel Melech Ne'eman before reciting the Shema to complete the number of 248. Hasidim do not say Kel Melech Ne'eman before Shema, and we repeat Hashem Elokechem Emet if we don't have a cantor. Number 9. When a person who is forced to make an interruption in the midst of the recitation of the Shema, that is, in the portion from Shema Israel until Ala Aretz, until before the third chapter, for example, he had to relieve himself, or feces were found in the place where he was praying, and then he's not allowed to pray anymore. He must return to the beginning of the Shema if he was forced to wait for the amount of time it takes for him to recite the Shema. Any interruption between the three chapters, or the first two chapters, that was happening without my will, but it sure happened. There was an emergency. The emergencies he's talking about is not so common, but there are emergencies. Suddenly, somebody, God forbid, collapse. A message came that my wife was need to go to the hospital, etc. And I had to break and stop. If I stop longer than it takes to recite those two chapters, which is a couple of minutes, 3-4 minutes, we have to start all the way from the beginning. A person, number 10, a person who already recited the Shema and enters a synagogue where he finds a congregation reciting the Shema should also recite the entire Shema together with them, so that it does not appear that he does not desire to accept the yoke of heaven together with his colleagues. He receives a reward as one who reads from the Torah. So I grew up in a village where there is a minyan like a bus station. Every 5 minutes another minyan. They have 3 rooms. One main room, I had 3 minyanim at the same time. So every time if the group is holding by Shema, it is appropriate to recite the Shema V'ayam Shema V'yoma, even if I already prayed.
Do they have an electronic board to tell you what time it is? I bet you they do now.
No, they don't.
They don't?
It's not. It doesn't work because it's like literally every 5 minutes. Same as the kotel. Very good. Large in Bnei Brak, you can have a minyan every minute in the large synagogue in Itzkovitz, in the center of Bnei Brak. Every 2 minutes there is a new minyan.
I was in the shuk in Yerushalayim and I went to say mincha early. They told me where to go across the street. It was a building that had 2 floors. There were 6 minyanim on 2 floors.
Yeah.
That's the yeshiva.
The same applies to a person in the synagogue who is reciting prayers of supplication or other verses in a place where it is permitted to make an interruption. The laws applying to one who is at a point of the service where he cannot make an interruption are explained above. We already studied it. So in other words, if I'm sitting and studying Torah in the synagogue and there is a minyan and he's holding by Shema, I have to stop and say the Shema. If one has not yet recited the Shema, he should recite it with the congregation. However, he should have the intention not to fulfill the obligation to recite the Shema, so that he may recite it later together with its blessings. Because as we studied before, the Shema has 2 blessings prior, 1 blessing afterwards, that together completes it as one complete mitzvah. So when I say the Shema with the congregation and I did not pray yet the morning prayer, I should have in mind not to fulfill the mitzvah of reading Shema yet, because God gave us that mitzvah, He says, in the morning and in the evening, and the way to fulfill that mitzvah is with the 2 blessings before and the blessing afterwards. These principles apply regarding all other prayers recited by the congregation, that is, Tehillah LeDavid, Avashrei, Aleinu, and the like. So if I came to synagogue and everybody is reciting Aleinu, I have to join them. If everybody is reciting Ashrei, I have to join them. And even liturgical chants should be recited with them, so that one does not separate oneself from the congregation. We have to show that we're part of this or the minyan, otherwise it may appear as if we don't believe in the same prayers that the minyan is reciting. Chapter 18. The laws pertaining to Shmoneh Esrei. Shmoneh Esrei is the Amidah. Number 1. The time in...
If somebody's already davened and is joining the minyan to make a minyan,
Right.
they also still join in all the prayers.
He has to, not only may.
Okay.
Even if he's reading a newspaper, or he's reciting Psalms, or he study Torah. When the congregation comes to Ashrei, he must say it. Shema and Vaya and Vayomer, he has to say. Aleinu, he has to say. Amida, he's not allowed to say. Because it's blessings with God's name. That's his
you
problem.
jump from where you started and they're saying Shema, then you say the Shema, then you go back to it.
He's not talking, yes.
I was
Yeah,
I
you
was
go
talking
back
different.
when you're late. You go back and
You
you
go
do
back
the whole
and
thing, and
finish.
then you
No, he's talking about something else. He's talking
No,
about,
I'm asking another question.
you came to synagogue when the congregation is holding by Shema,
Right.
so you study it before.
So
That
you do it
there
and
is
then
a
you go
way,
back and
there
finish
is
it.
a priority.
No,
Well,
do
it's
it,
not
and
so
you
simple.
do it again.
And you
There
do
is a
Shema again.
priority of which prayers you may skip. Remember, it depends how much time you have. Do you say Baruch Shamar? You have to say.
Right.
Vayvarech you have to say. Ishtabach you have to say. The blessing of Shema you have to say. And I told you, Gemara Chasidim, we say the whole thing. We don't
So
cut
if
short.
you don't have enough time, you can just jump, say those, and then you go on, right? Like if you got to go to work, you got a doctor's appointment, and you don't have
Right.
enough time to do the whole thing. So you just do those items,
Yes.
those ones, and that's it.
Yes. Number 18. The laws pertaining to Shmoneh Esrei. Number 1. The time in which we are commanded to recite the Shmoneh Esrei begins at the appearance of the sun, Hanetzach Hama. Hanetzach Hama is in English sunrise. As not the break of dawn, but sunrise. Who's the one who discussed that with me last week?
We all do.
Last week. So Hanetzach Hama, which is sunrise. As Psalm states, may they see you with the sun. So Amida cannot be recited before sunrise. Nevertheless, a person who recites the Shmoneh Esrei between dawn and the appearance of the sun is considered to have fulfilled his obligation. In other words, Bedi Eved, after the fact, it is proper. Is this okay? But to begin with, the best way to do it is at sunrise. The time for its recitation continues until a third of the day has passed. Also, there is a limit into how long we can say the Shmoneh Esrei, the morning Shmoneh Esrei, for a third of the day. The third of the day is not 4 hours, but 4 hours based on how many minutes and hours the day is. So if the day is 13 hours, 4 hours may be 4 hours, a third of the day may be 4 hours and 20 minutes, etc. The time for its recitation continues until a third of the day has passed. It is forbidden to delay one's prayers any longer. However, after the fact, if one transgressed and delayed one's prayer, one may recite the Shmoneh Esrei until noon. This applies even if the delay was intentional. In other words, first 4 hours of the day, a third of the day, is the time, the best time. If we did not say it, after the fact, we may recite the Shmoneh Esrei until noon. Though a person who recites the Shmoneh Esrei at this time does not receive the reward of one who prays at the required time, he still receives reward for prayer. If a person transgressed and intentionally did not pray until past noon, there is no way he can compensate for this act. Ecclesiastes refers to such a deed as the crookedness that cannot be made straight. The laws concerning a person who inadvertently did not recite the Shmoneh Esrei or was prevented from reciting it are explained in chapter 21.
Question. Back to the daylight. I was in Texas one time. It was dark. We went in and it was dark. We came out. It was almost dark. They were finished with Minyan. Was there any? I mean, why would that be in the morning? I mean, if it's got to be daylight, they actually finish before sunrise.
Is this because of an emergency? They had a flight to catch or something?
Probably because people had to go to work. But
Okay, so we're allowed to, as he said, to begin with, you wait until sunrise, which is a little light. But if you have no choice, then you're allowed to do from dawn, which is still dark, actually.
The same thing stands for the Shmoneh Esrei if you're late. And like let's say you're saying the Shema, you go back to say you go back before the Shema, then you say the Shema again. Then you're late for the Shmoneh Esrei. So what do you do? You stop everything and you do the Shemona Esrei, right?
I didn't understand. You came late to synagogue?
Okay, you come late to synagogue.
Is there a minyan in the synagogue?
Yes.
Okay.
And then let's say you started praying from the beginning, and then they start saying the Shemona Esrei.
Yeah.
So you stop everything and go to the Shemona Esrei and say the whole Shemona Esrei?
I don't know. Who said that?
No, I'm asking.
He's asking.
So we studied before that there is an order which are important, depends how much time you have, so that you reach Shmona Esrei together with the congregation. But I'm not sure you stop everything and you jump to Shmona Esrei. You have to say the Shema before Shmona Esrei. You have to say Ishtabach before Shmona Esrei. You have to say.
Okay, so you cannot jump. Then you do it on your own.
Yes.
Thank you.
Number 2. When a person reaches the words Tehilot Lekel Elyon in the blessing of Gaal Israel, the blessings before Shmona Esrei, he should rise and prepare himself for the Shmona Esrei prayers. Until then, you seated, as we studied last week. It is appropriate to sit down during the Shema and its blessings. So when it says Tehilot Lekel Elyon Ga'alam Baruch Hu Borach, that's when he should prepare for the Amidah by standing up. He should remove all spittle and mucus from his mouth and turn his attention from any matter that will disturb his thoughts. If there is something that itches him, if there is something that's not appropriate, he should make sure that he is ready to concentrate because he is entering the chamber of the king now. He should take 3 steps backwards and recite from Tehilot Lekel Elyon until Gaal Israel, and then take 3 steps forward as one who approaches and comes close to the king. That's why we take 3 steps back, and then we come back as if now we enter into to the chamber of the king.
Is that the same reason you do it for in the Kaddish?
No, by the Kaddish, we'll find out. By no means should an interruption be made between Gaal Israel and the Shmona Esrei. Not allowed to make an interruption between the conclusion of the blessing and the beginning of the Amidah. Even for Kaddish, Kedusha, and Baruch Hu. The congregation is saying Kedusha, or Kaddish, or Baruch Hu. We're not allowed to respond because this is the time. Baruch Atah Hashem Gaal Israel. Immediately we must begin Hashem Svatai Tiftach, the beginning of the Amidah. So that the blessing, praising God for our redemption, is followed directly by the Shmona Esrei prayers.
So is it okay to say page 45?
No.
So
We
how do
say-
people know?
So first, it's not appropriate. However, for the sake of prayer, it's called for the sake of mitzvah, and for the community, we're allowed to do it. But we say it before Gaal Israel. After Gaal Israel, it is totally forbidden. Even for Baruch Hu or Kaddish, you're not allowed to.
Okay.
Barry, you take note.
No,
One-
because it's like a
Very good comment. One should plan the recitation of this blessing in order to conclude Gaal Israel together with the Chazan. Were a person to finish before the Chazan, there would be a question whether he should respond Amen to the Chazan's blessing or not. If the Chazan says Baruch Atah Hashem Gaal Israel, if I hear him, I'm supposed to say Amen. But if the congregation will respond by Amen, they're making an interruption between Gaal Israel and Amidah. So what do? We all say it out loud together. That's why we chanted Shira Chadasha Shemru. So everybody finishes at the same time. Then you cannot say Amen on your own blessings, and that's how you can avoid that. But even if it happened that you are there and you did not conclude with the cantor at the same time, you're not allowed to say Amen after his blessing because it will create an interruption between Gaal Israel and the beginning.
So that's why we don't say Amen.
Most
That's right.
most Ashkenazi schools, they don't say it. They just the Chazan says it silently.
Right, correct. Say it silently. This is not Chabad. This is code of Jewish law. So there are different ways of doing it, but that's the way. Actually, by us, by the Siddur, it says say it silently. That the cantor should say it silently. If you look in the cantor's prayer book, you'll see.
I used to say something, so I was told it should be said out loud. I used to say it silently. I wouldn't say going so out loud. I was told to say it out loud.
Yeah, I always grew up and it was always Amen. It's like- because what happens is it does an automatic thing to tell people to do Amen, and they want to prevent people from saying Amen. That's what I
Well,
was explaining.
This
No, it
is
says in
there-
the book. That's right. It says that you don't
Let
say
me
amen.
explain it again. There are two ways of avoiding the saying of Amen. One is that the cantor recites it silently, and the other that the entire congregation completes that blessing together with the cantor. He brings here that the best way to do is that the cantor says it out loud, and the congregation are reciting at the same time out loud, and therefore they avoid the saying of Amen. And that's God of law.
No,
It says it is best to conclude the words Ge'al Yisrael along with the Chazan.
Okay, so here we go. Harry, you're doing right. You're doing correctly.
now, one thing I noticed, just before the Shema, the last three words before the Shema are said silently.
Right.
That's different than what is in
Same story.
Same
Because
thing.
you have to
Chazan
finish
concludes the blessing silently.
you have to finish and immediately begin the Shema. And in order for us to avoid the words Amen in between, the cantor is saying it quietly. Now you're asking me why over there quietly and why over here, I don't know. But
That was my point.
here is the reason. This is my common sense. In the note, it says that if someone concluded Ge'al Yisrael before the cantor, and he heard the cantor say Ge'al Yisrael, he must say Amen, right? But by before Shema, even if the cantor says it and you heard, you're not supposed to say Amen. Therefore, we make the cantor say it very quiet.
Many congregations, before they say Kelma Naman, before Shema, they do say it out loud in the rhythm. Amen said.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's a matter of
However, when he also finishes the blessing at the same time as the Chazan, he surely need not recite Amen, for one does not recite Amen after one's own blessings, and therefore we recite together with the cantor. In the evening service, since the blessing before the Shmoneh Esrei does not conclude with Ge'al Yisrael, one is permitted to make all the interruptions allowed between the sections, as described in chapter 16 at this time. So in the evening service, Baruch Hashem, ופרוס עליהם סוכת שלומך, ופורץ סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל ירושלים, we say Amen. We're not allowed to stop. Before the Shmoneh Esrei, one should recite the verse, Hashem, open my lips, Hashem Sevasai Tiftach. This verse is not considered an interruption, since it is relevant to the prayer. We ask God to open up our mouth and lips to be able to recite the proper words. However, the verse, I will call forth the name of God, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra Abu Godel Eloheinu, is considered an interruption. Hence, it should not only be recited before the Shmoneh Esrei of Musaf and Mincha. Then, it shouldn't be recited before Hashem Sevasai Tiftach, God open my lips. Let's stop right here, and we'll continue next week. God willing.